Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our continuation of the audio of the study prepared by Lance Knight of the King's Chapel of the book of Ezekiel. We are currently in chapter 36, beginning with verse 1. If you haven't listened to the previous recordings, I urge you all to do so you can get up to speed with what we're talking about here in this book of Ezekiel, which has more information about the end times in the book of Revelation, actually. So let's continue. The restoration of Israel at the return of Yeshua Messiah is preceded by the desolation of her enemies who come against her from the north. Ezekiel 38:14. Just prior to his return, it is the last straw, as we say, and even triggers the sounding of the seventh trump and the short-lived events of the second tribulation. We will find in chapters 38 through 39 that those who come against true Israel are headed by the leader of Esau, the chief prince Meshech, which means leader of Rosh, or Russia, and her allies Tubal. Note, do not confuse Meshech with Meshach, who was one of the three servants of Yahweh, along with Shadrach and Abednego, who were tossed into the fiery furnace by the king of Babylon. They emerged from the fire completely unharmed, without even the smell of smoke on their clothing. In contrast, Meshach is going to feel the heat real good when the fire of Yahweh's wrath comes upon him. The understanding of this 35th chapter is made easy with just a little background. Esau and Jacob were twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah, and it is written that Esau has always had a perpetual hatred, meaning a continual underlying hostility towards his brother Jacob, even from the world that then was. You see, before they were ever born, they even struggled in the womb of their mother Rebekah. Genesis 25, verse 22. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of Yahweh. It is also written concerning Esau in Romans 9:13, quote, "As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated," unquote. That was our fathers speaking about the little babies who were yet in their mother's womb. Like we said, Esau had a perpetual hatred and despised his birthright, even in the world that then was, 2 Peter 3, which was before the foundation of this earth age, Ephesians 1:4. Yahweh had very little respect for his attitude from the beginning. Verse 23, "And Yahweh said unto her, Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." This is really important because these two sons of Isaac would become two great nations, even two great superpowers of the final generation. They are basically the United States, Jacob, and Russia, Esau. Although Russia, that bare nation, has recently lost some of her prestige in the minds of many as a great superpower because of the breakup of the USSR and the collapse of the Berlin Wall, symbolizing the end of the Cold War, do not go into hibernation yourself, for the current leader is Putin, her back on her feet, and she's beginning to raise up once again on one side, Daniel 7, verse 5, which is the left side, the side of communism and socialism and oppression. That is Satan's side, by the way. Again, we are going to learn in chapters 38 and 39 that it will be this Edom, that red nation, that bare nation of Esau or Russia, along with her allies, who will come against true Israel, Jacob's nation, from the north. And it will be Yahweh Almighty himself who will smite the bow from their left hand, Ezekiel 39, verse 3. That is, Yeshua Messiah shall defeat them at his coming. The land of Edom, Russia, therefore, plays a major role in the final events just before the seventh trump sounds. The prophet Daniel also saw a vision concerning the Bear Nation and her role at the time Satan is cast out of heaven to this earth as the king of Babylon, the little horn, the anti-Messiah, the abomination of desolation, etc., etc. Let's go see what Daniel saw. Okay, I need to stop here for a minute because we believe that Satan has already been cast out of heaven, as found in Revelation 12, verse 7. Okay, so let's continue. Let's go see what Daniel saw. Daniel 7, verse 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. The sea represents the people and nations, Revelation 17, verse 15. Daniel, in this vision of chapter 7, sees the final surrender, actually a takeover, of the superpowers, including the Bear Nation, to the political structure of the New World Order with its 10 kings headed by Anti-Messiah, the little horn, verses 7 and 8. You will notice in verse 2 that this takes place when the four winds are striving upon the earth. That means they have been released, so this takes place after Messiah commands the angel of the sixth trump to let go the four angels holding the four winds of Revelation 7, verse 1. Only after Yahweh's elect have sealed all the 144,000 of Revelation 7, verse 4, 12,000 each from the listed nations of Israel, so that they are sealed with the word of Yahweh in their foreheads and therefore cannot be hurt, Revelation 9, 4. Then does the angel of the sixth trump let go the four angels. Their release is at the sound of the sixth trump. Revelation 9, verses 13 through 15. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before Yahweh. 14. Saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Verse 15. And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. So at the time of the sixth trump and the appearance of Anti-Messiah, the New World Order becomes powered by Satan, PBS, because he completely takes over. He will be in charge of the superpowers, including the nation who dwells in the land of Edom, i.e. Russia, the Bear Nation. Okay, I'm going to stop here a minute because there are some different views. This is probably what you would call a dispensational futurism view, whereas the historicists have a different view on this. I encourage you all to research it yourselves, but let me just point out Revelation 11:15, where it says, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Master and of his anointed, and they shall reign forever and ever. So this tells me that when this seventh trump sounds, that it's going to be Yeshua who's going to be in control of this one world order and not some other satanic entity. Okay, well, let's continue and see what Lance Knight has to say about this. Daniel 7, verse 3. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. Just so there is no doubt about who these four beasts are, they are explained later in the 17th verse of this chapter. Daniel 7, verse 17, quote, these great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth, unquote. So again, the sea is the earth, meaning the people of the earth. Now, one of these four beasts, kings or leaders, heads of the Bear Nation, the nation of Esau in the land of Edom, he is that chief prince Meshach of Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39, which we will get to soon in our studies. Here is his description. Daniel 7, verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. The 3 ribs, those 3 who control what the bear speaks, for they are in his mouth, are the they who tell him, Arise and sicken, i.e., devour much flesh. And whose flesh do you think the bloodthirsty bear is going to arise to devour? We know from history, his history, and the 38th and 39th chapters of Ezekiel, and that which we shall read in this 35th chapter, that it is the nation of his brother Jacob, true Israel, once again. Could these 3 ribs be the same as the 3 frogs in the mouth of the dragon? Well, who do you think controls the world and the nations at this time? The dragon, of course. Revelation 16:13. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Everyone has the same talking points under the dragon's administration, don't they? Verse 14. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh Almighty. Oh, the 3 frogs, evil spirits, go forth unto the kings of the earth. Why? To gather them to battle of that great day of Yahweh Almighty. Yet the 3 ribs, really, frogs wouldn't be a good analogy for bears because bears don't eat frogs. They like ribs, are stuffed in the mouth of the bear. They say to the bear, Arise, go get Jacob, Esau, grib it. Daniel 7:7. And after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. The kings of the world all become subservient to the one world political system under the authority of these 10 horns, or kings, headed by the little horn, Satan. Next verse. Let this be no mystery, for you will find the exact same thing written in Revelation 13. The leader of the 10 kings, or horns, is the beast, the dragon of Revelation 13, the little horn of Daniel 7, verse 8. Verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. The little horn takes right over as the one superpower ruler, the OSR, and plucks up the authority of the other superpower rulers, like pulling dandelions from wet soil. Okay, just to touch on here for a minute, some of the historicist interpretation. It is found that these 2 beasts, or these 2 powers, are actually the papacy and imperial Rome, which was subsumed by the papacy. So then Lance Knight goes on to say, this little horn is anti-Messiah, the king of Babylon, Satan himself, claiming to be the Messiah, and who, as written in 2 Thessalonians 2:4, opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called Yahweh, or that is worshipped, so that he, as Yahweh, sitteth in the temple of Yahweh, showing himself that he is Yahweh. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I submit that Satan is already here and already sitting in the temple of billions of believers. That's right, you heard me. He's already here in the temple of billions of those who call themselves Christians. I've done a study which is posted on a Rumble site where it talks about how the man of sin is already here sitting in the temple. Instead of going into a lot of detail here in this recording, I'm going to direct your attention to this article on Ilya Message Time at WordPress.com. I'll put a link to it below in the description of this video. And you can read this and get up to speed with the historicism eschatology on this matter. Okay, so let's continue. So the bear nation will come against this nation from the north. We will discuss where that is later on in chapters 38 and 39. It will be Esau's final act as he once again demonstrates his despise for his birthright and his perpetual hatred for his brother Jacob. It is too bad, because Yahweh would surely have given to Esau the blessings of the firstborn, which he was the firstborn, had he repented and turned to him. Okay, I need to stop here again. I just want to read Hebrews 12:16 and 17, where it says, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright." And then 17, "For ye know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected. For he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears." Okay, so this is a little bit contrary to what Lance Knight is saying here, where Lance contends that Yahweh would have given him the blessing, but according to Hebrews, he sought it with tears and it was rejected. Okay, so let's continue with Lance's study. Let's go back and read what is written after he sold out his own people, i.e. his birthright, for a lousy bowl of red pottage. Won't they be proud of him? Genesis 25, verse 34. "Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright." So Jacob received the blessing of the firstborn, and has since inherited the wealth and the prosperity and the fertility land from sea to shining sea, with luscious fields teeming with amber waves of grain, while Esau got Mount Seir, a bunch of rocks and a bunch of ice and snow in Siberia. That is why we sell them so much of our wheat. Esau's land of Edom, which means red, cannot be compared with our land, the land of Jacob. So Esau hated Jacob because he was envious in that Jacob got more than he did, and he sought to kill him. Nice guy. Genesis 27:41. "And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob." I also want to stop here and mention that if you know one of the reasons why Esau's blessing was robbed from him, it wasn't just because he sold his birthright for a bowl of pottage, but he actually race mixed. He took Canaanite and Hittite women to wives, and it is believed that that's the primary reason why Yahweh cut off his blessing. Okay, so let's continue. Ezekiel 25, verse 12. Let me go back maybe. "Finally, before we cover this chapter 35, we should be reminded that 10 chapters ago in chapter 25, we read of judgment against Edom. It was for the same jealousy and vengeance he had perpetually harbored against his brother." Ezekiel 25, verse 12. "Thus saith Yahweh, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them." 13. "Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword." The land of Edom is just not prime real estate, is it? It lies north, away from the fat of the land, as it was prophesied. Some believe the prophecy in this chapter 35 concerning Mount Seir's desolation has already come to pass. And in type it has. Here's what Dr. Smith writes in his Bible dictionary concerning Mount Seir. Quote, Esau drove out the Horites who dwelt in rock-hewn dwellings, Deuteronomy 2:12, probably such as are seen now in Petra, and changed its name to Edom. Ezekiel prophesied the desolation of Mount Seir, which seems to have been fulfilled in the present condition of the country, Smith's Bible Dictionary. But that is not the final judgment of Mount Seir and the land of Edom. The prophecy we are about to read is given for this final generation and for what will happen to Mount Seir in that day. Chapter 35 of the book of Ezekiel. 35 verse 1. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, 2. Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it. Seir actually means shaggy, like a goat, or even hairy, just like Esau, and refers to his people in the land of Edom, which means red. Yahweh tells Ezekiel to get in Mount Seir's face and give him a message directly from him. Verse 3. And say unto it, Thus saith Yahweh, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and I will make thee most desolate. This is not good news if you are Mount Seir, however. Always remember that if Yahweh is going to make someone or something desolate, you can be assured there is a valid reason. Verse 4. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. The reason is the same reason as all the other judgments our Father delivers. It is because he cares about all his children, and he knows that judgment and chastisement and tough love are required to let them know that he is Yahweh. Hopefully, in that day, they will begin to turn to him. Ezekiel 35, verse 5. Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end. Did you know that the entire short book of Obadiah, servant of Yah, in the minor prophets concerns the vision of the land of Edom, the home of Esau, and gives us further details into his offenses and the reason for his desolation? Read it all 20 verses. Should take you all of 3 or 4 minutes. Obadiah 1:1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith Yahweh concerning Edom. And then in verse 10, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. This is exactly the same offense we just read of in Ezekiel 35:5. Violence and blood shed against his brother Jacob. Note, the Hebrew word for violence is shamach and means cruelty, injustice, unrighteousness. This time, violence that filled the midst of the king of Tyre, Satan, in Ezekiel 28:16. You know the judgment he got. Verse 11. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and the foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them. Imagine that. Esau jumped right in there and helped bring down and make desolate his very own brother. What a guy. Sure would make a father proud of that child, proud of a child like that, wouldn't it? Not. Verse 12. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. He should not have revealed or reveled over his brother's downfall and destruction, and scattering and said, na, 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 and then tried to take over his property, his land. What is he, nuts? even like the false shepherds who think Yahweh doesn't see? Woe, Esau, will you ever learn? Will you ever learn? Ezekiel 35, verse 6. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Seeth thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Hey, you like the sword, Esau? You like to see the bloodshed of others, even your own brothers? Sith, i.e., since you hate not blood, will soon see how you like your own shed. We will see how you like your own shed, meaning his own blood, pal. Verse 7. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. Verse 8. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men in thy hills, and in thy valleys and in all the rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. We will read about how Yahweh will bring about this slaying in the 39th chapter. Verse 9. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy cities shall not return, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. Remember in verse 5, we read that Esau had a perpetual hatred for his brother Jacob, and even his birthright, even from before the birth into the flesh age. Therefore, he will not be among the blessed nations, which he could have been, but he will be among the desolate nations because of his long-standing ways. Ezekiel 35, verse 10. Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas Yahweh was there. This is in reference to the two nations of Judah and Israel, which means both houses of Esau's brother Jacob, which are called the mountains or nations of Israel, verse 12. The opportunist Edomites, seeing the territory of the nation of Judah desolate and depopulated, like that of her sister Israel nearly 200 years prior, planned to move right in and take vacant possession. It might have worked, except that Yahweh was watching, and he was there to stop that greedy little maneuver. Verse 11. Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh, I will even do according to thine anger, and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. This is the way Yahweh exercises judgment, and judgment with complete fairness. Should one not be willing to receive the same thing he or she dishes out to others? We have a proverb that says, he can dish it out, but he can't take it. Well, pal, if you can't take it, then you better not dish it out, because you're going to get it coming right back at you. Esau and all the other nations who have dished it out are going to get the same thing back in their faces in that day. Obadiah 1, verse 15. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. When will Mount Seir and all of Edom be made desolate? We just read it in Obadiah, in the day of Yahweh, the return of Yeshua Messiah. So the question is, why should you do unto others what you would like them to do unto you? Because it works in reverse too. In other words, it shall be done unto you what you do unto others. Want to hear it right from the mouth of him who is the supreme judge over all? Matthew 7, verse 1. Judge not that ye be not judged. Verse 2. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. So Esau is simply going to get it according to his anger and according to his envy, which he has used out of his hatred against his brother Jacob, just as Yahweh so stated in verse 11. You can not say that is unfair. Ezekiel 35, verse 12. And thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, They are laid desolate, they are given us up, they are given us to consume. You were overjoyed and boastful at your brother's chastisement, and wanted to take the land of your brother after his desolation and scattering, even though it did not belong to you. So for that reason I will make desolate your land and consume you accordingly. Thus shall you know that the I am is Yahweh, and he judges in righteousness, which is fairly and justly to all. Verse 13. Thus with your mouth ye have boasted against me, and have multiplied your own words against me. I have heard them. Never make the mistake of thinking our Father doesn't know or hear your boasting, and see your own judgments with which you judge. Verse 14. Thus saith Yahweh, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate. When will Mount Seir be made totally desolate? When the whole earth rejoices and every knee bows, because the King of righteousness has come to execute justice. Ezekiel 35, verse 15. And thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate. So I will do unto thee, thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. Yep, you thought it was a wonderful thing that your brother was made desolate, didn't you, O Esau? You have shown once again, even in this present earth age, that you really do despise your birthright and your heritage and your own kin, O selfish Esau. You'll soon find out what fairness is all about and who it is that is Yahweh over all. Okay, that ends this portion of Ezekiel 36 through 15. And we'll pick it up next time with beginning with verse 16. Until then, please give this a thumbs up and a like, and subscribe to the channel if you will. That will help this recording to reach others. And until then, may Yahweh richly bless you.